Hello everyone. Today we'll be going live with Prachi Shevgaonkar, founder of Cool the Globe app. Prachi is an inspiration for all of us, especially youngsters and youth. She created an app at the age of 23 just by herself and her family's support. Let's join today to hear her journey and how she did it. She is enforcing climate action, sitting at home for all of us. The app helps reduce our climate impact by reducing our greenhouse emissions. Let's hear from her how she started her initiative and how it has been established over the years. Let's wait for her to join. By profession, Prachi is a media professional, so she has great insights about building personal brand as well, so we can get more insights from her about how she built Cool the Globe and the personal branding of the app. Thank you so much for joining. Let's give it a minute or two. Okay, she's here.
Hi,
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 Prachi.
Sarah. How
Hi.
are you?
Good, how are you? Am I
I'm
audible?
good. So happy to be here. Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. I recently watched your video that had gone viral and received a lot of views, and I was like, there's someone we have to interview, and that's her. You're such an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I know you have a lot of conferences since you've launched the app, and it's so wonderful to have the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Not at all. I'm more excited to be here. And, I think it's just such an amazing work that you've done with Globe Uplift. From when we last spoke, you told me about how you started it, and I was very inspired by that story. So, before you ask me any questions, I want to ask you about, to tell the audience more about how you started Globe Uplift, because I think it's like absolutely inspirational.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to us. So actually, since when I was in school, like now I just
Yeah,
passed my 12th grade, so I'm out of high school.
yeah,
But since the
yeah.
age of I think 12, 13, I was like a lot involved in like community service activities within my school. I
Right,
started this initiative to like award the workers in our school for Labor Day, a lot of clothes
right.
drive and all sorts of like these charity things. So
Right.
after 12th, I was a bit like worried how I going to continue all this. So that's
Yeah.
what STEM the Globe Uplift, like a long-term project that I can continue with. And such initiatives actually help us meet people like you who are our true heroes who come up with new ideas, innovation, which really stems more action towards what we actually do, which is promoting and creating awareness.
Wow. And it's so amazing that you started as when like you just out of 12th, and when I was like at that age, I really did not, I was not as dynamic or of as you, and I didn't really think much beyond my small world. So it's so amazing to see you doing all of this. And you
Thank
know,
you
the
so
way
much.
it's grown in just a couple of months, it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. No, but you did start planning the app when you were 18, so you can't say that
I,
because
I did.
you really established the personal branding as well. I recently read an interview, a written interview where you were asked questions about personal branding, and it is so
Yeah.
evident that all your thoughts you've put into your organization, sort of a community that you've built through your app.
Right.
That's amazing to see. So most of us are here to know more about your
Yeah.
journey and how you've really redefined how we think about climate change. At the
Right.
moment, we're really facing so many issues because of eco anxiety, climate anxiety. Most of us, youth, are coming out speaking about how they're anxious about our environment. But
Right.
what you have done is truly admirable because you've turned helplessness into hopefulness. You know, you've given a sense of hope. So we would love to like turn back the pages and see how you started. So if you can talk more about it.
Wow, so beautifully said. Thank you so much for that wonderful gist. I started with like just some very, like I said in the video I made to invite people in, it started with some very simple things that, you know, all of us ask ourselves about the big issues. Like, but it actually goes way back when I was, I would say your age or a little younger, in fact, and I had to make a decision about what something that everybody like the big decision in life is which career are you going to choose, which field are you going to take on. And when I was trying to decide that, one of the first things I looked up was how many hours am I going to spend in my career in my field. And do you know the answer? Any guesses? How many hours do you think one spends in a lifetime at their workplace?
Wow, I never really thought of that perspective actually. Do you mind
Yeah.
sharing?
So I was actually very surprised to know that it's 80,000 hours, you know. That's how much time we are going to, an average person spends at work in their lifetime. And that's a huge amount of time. You know, it takes a person 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, if all of us spend 80,000 hours at our workplace, then what if each one of us just spends at least a fraction of that time onto solving the real issues in our community around us? Then it would make such a huge difference. Then we'd all sort of become experts into solving real world problems around us, into making a difference. And so I decided that, you know, when I finally did decide to take in media as a field, and I was a black sheep of the family, by the way, I was the only media person in a family full of engineers. I was like, I'm going to try and use a fraction of my skill sets into making a real difference around me. And so one of the first things I looked up in the first semester of college is what is the biggest problem in the world right now? And that's when climate change popped up. So again, I was very surprised to see that because all of these global institutions, all of these people seem to be saying that climate change is a big pressing problem in front of us, and people around me weren't really talking about it. So like the first question I asked, even before I asked myself what can I do about it, the first question was why should I even care about it? And in asking that, you know, I read about the effects of climate change, and I read about global warming. I read about sea level rising. I read about melting of ice, glaciers. I read about changing biodiversity, the Indian monsoon, which is going to be impacted because of climate change. All of these big and scary things. But at the end of the day, I had a moment of honesty with myself, and I was like, I still don't care about these things enough to do something about it. And so I was like, what do I care about then?
Yeah.
And that's what I asked myself, and a lot of people around me too. As ordinary people, what do we care about? And like, what do you care about in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. I would say I care about what I'm doing and how it's impacting me and what
Yeah.
the people I'm serving. And of course,
Right,
like, as you mean, like something relatable, like my family, my friends, whoever I'm connected
right,
with. So,
right.
yeah, that's
Very true. And that's what I asked people around me, and the answers were always pretty similar. As ordinary people, we care about very simple things. We care about our health, our food, our homes, our family, and we care about the people around us. And at a very distant glance, it seems like climate change has nothing to do with them. But then I had the opportunity as a media person to spend time with a lot of different kinds of people from different fields and different backgrounds. And in in through that experience, I saw some faces which are behind these catastrophic impacts of climate change that we read about. And it's when I met those people that's when I started thinking about it very differently. And one of the first people was a 12-year-old boy that I met when I was doing a film on children and what their dreams look like, and he lived in a slum not very far from my house. And when I met him, I asked him a very simple question, which is, if you could get any wish, one wish, and it would come true, what would you ask for? And I was very surprised to know his answer. He said, I would wish that my house didn't get filled with water every year. And a 12-year-old boy gets to ask anything in the world, and this is what he has to ask for. I realized that's when it took me back to all of those reports I had read about how climate change impacts our water and how climate change is about these extreme weather events. But little did I know that it means that there'll be a 12-year-old boy living not very far from my house who has to worry about something as basic as a shelter above his head. And there's so many more people like that, who made me realize that it's not about these big and heavy words that we read in reports and read in news. It's about some very real people and some very real faces. And that's when I realized that I care about climate change, because it impacts my home, because it impacts my food, because it impacts livelihood of so many people around me, and because it impacts my family and the people I care so much about. And I think that that's one of the things, like, it's not just about it's not just an environment problem, it's a media problem today. It's We need to change the way we talk about climate change. The people need to know that it's human, it's relatable, as a media person, that's when I decided that I wanted to do something about it. And then that's when, like, the journey of Who Cooled the Globe started. So
wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think, yeah, as you mentioned, true stories and things that are actually being impacted is someone just like us that is actually like helping us move towards thinking what can we actually do. And
yeah,
one thing I really loved about you, like since we started this interview, the way you look at things is so different than like any common person would do. You truly think for like the first person, like from the first principles, from the depth of things and the roots of how it originated. And especially like thinking about such things, I can see how you sort of went on the journey to actually create this app. It's superb to know, and also it was nice to see how you viewed climate change in the beginning and now how it has transitioned to you actually doing
right.
something feasible that everyone can do. Thank you. It
Right.
was wonderful to know.
Thank you so much. But I think I didn't actually answer your question. I didn't even get to the start of Cool the Globe, much before that. So
Yeah,
hopefully we'll
a
cover
lot
that
of
in.
actually a lot of us have
Yeah.
already watched the video, so we sort of already
Yeah.
know what the context is. But yeah, feel
Right.
free to share for anyone who might not have watched it.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, like the journey started even before from me just figuring out why should I even care about it. But when I did realize that, then I started thinking about what I can do. And it was a surprisingly very difficult answer to find because in all of these articles I'd read, in all the videos I'd watched, I couldn't really take back what can an ordinary girl like me do about a big problem like climate change. And so I did what any girl who's faced with a problem would do. I went to my parents and I asked them, what do you think I can do about climate change? And so we as a family decided to reduce our own greenhouse gas emissions by 10% to start with. And it seemed like something that was doable. We could take
Yeah.
that on and doable to everybody around us. Everybody can save 10%. It's like making some small changes for 3 days in a month. It's something that's achievable for anybody. And but it was very difficult for us because there was not a lot of information available on what are the things I can do in my day-to-day life and how can I measure that impact. So that's what we started doing, and we started researching on what are the different actions I can take, how many emissions I would be saving by taking those actions. And a few months of doing that, two very strange things started to happen. The first strange thing was that, like the eco anxiety that you mentioned, there's maybe, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's even something smaller like uneasiness. You don't like to hear about how bad a state we are in. It's not a good feeling. But from that, it actually became like a happy thing that I was doing. It almost became like a fun game I was playing with my family. Taking small actions in my day made me feel good. It made me feel like I was a small part of something meaningful. And the second strange thing was that so many of my friends, my relatives, said that I think you are doing something interesting and we want to join in. And that's when we started thinking about how we could take citizens around the world on this quest along with us. And so we started looking at whether there are any other platforms out there which would help individuals do something about climate change. And we couldn't really find many. And again, that was very surprising. So we thought if there are no platform, like nobody else is doing it, then we must do it ourselves. And that's how the idea for Cool the Globe is born. So we decided to build an app which would help people like you and I reduce our own emissions to a target. And essentially, the idea is that in order to do anything at all, you just need two things. One is that you need a clear goal in front of you. And the second is that you need to be able to measure how you're doing on that goal. So that's what the app does. Every single person, as soon as you come in, is given a monthly and an annual target of reducing emissions based on that person's country's consumption. And then they see simple things that they can do in their day-to-day life. And they see the emissions they saved by doing that. So, for example, if my office is 10 kilometers away and I'm working from home because of lockdown, so by not going to the office in a car today, I saved 2 kg of emissions. I can see that and I can record that. If because I'm not going outside anyway, I cut down on my shopping and I didn't buy, say, 3 to 4 pairs of jeans. That would be around 1 kg of cloth, and I saved 10 kg of emissions. So you see the impact made by small actions, and you see how you're doing on that target. And then the biggest thing is that people think that what is one person going to do, like what difference is one action going to make. So then, like I would say, the most important feature is a global meter which shows the collective savings made by all users combined. And that is the power of collective action. So that is the app essentially. And like we released the platform and we realized that the real work is actually just begun. The real task is in convincing people that they can actually do something about it. But essentially, that was how we got to building the app, and how we released it.
Wow, superb. It's so nice to see the perspective you're looking at it because you're not telling people. Because one thing I read in one of your interviews was the fact that you are promoting sort of optimism and hope here by letting
Yeah.
people sort of calculate and quantify how much they have reduced, then how much
Right.
they have cost and
Yeah.
produced. Because
Absolutely.
if you ask people to sort of put down how much greenhouse emissions they have produced in a week,
Right.
that's just going
Right.
to demotivate more, sort of like
Right.
have that negative spiral going on in mind. Oh my god, I'm doing so much. But what you're
Absolutely.
actually looking at is the solutions. And I
Right.
absolutely love what you're doing and the initiative and the main core behind it to sort of give people hope. Like this is in front, in like front side. You can see that you're trying to reduce sort of carbon emissions, greenhouse footprint, and all sorts of these things. But what your true aim, which is really evident through what you've said, is to have that mindset shift that you have the power to do what you can at home. That is so good to see, because these days everyone you see is, as you mentioned, by the media. You are well aware about this as you the media professional. It's usually like sensationalized. All sorts of these things are like shown to us, and we're just left on our own to sort of make assumptions, take like a side, choose a side what we think about, and sort of like compartmentalize everything we see or hear.
Right.
But then I love what you're doing is that you're giving like this hope by actually giving them a way to sort of reduce on their own, because change is sort of like gradual. It's not going to happen in a snap. Each one of us needs to do something on our own.
Right.
So absolutely love it. I truly admire you and your idea, and the fact that you being in media is you are utilizing your education, sort of your professional well, in order to sort of bring people together, make your personal brand, make it more relatable to all of us, which like the world truly lacks with regards to climate change information. So truly, I really loved hearing it.
I feel like you were there with us throughout that journey. You're speaking so well, even better than me, in fact. So I'll take you along everywhere now to speak on my behalf if you have time.
No, but it's truly like I being in this field, even I see a lot of things in media we don't really understand much. As you mentioned, the jargon, these big words, but you are really making it like sort of like a game. Like you sort of quantify how much you saved it, and it's just more engaging for people. That's what human nature is. After all, we like to quantify everything, sort of break it down, and sort of make it more interactive, like the competitive spirit as well. And the fact that you have the community meter, as you mentioned, it's like you're competing with someone for something that you're doing that's going to help all of us. So that's so nice.
Yes, and even like the point you said about the measuring footprint, what that also does is as soon as someone gets in, they have to answer 100 questions to get a good idea of their carbon footprint. And by the time that's done, a person is already bored and they're out of there. Or, some people stick to the end, they find out what their footprint is, but what next? What happens after that? So we were very sure that we wanted to build something where people would come in and they can start with taking actions right away. Because I think it's actions that are the most powerful and also the most satisfying to a person. And as soon as you find something satisfying, then you want to do it more and more.
Yeah, you're using like the knowledge. I'm sure in your media studies you must have like learned a lot about psychology of people and how to really move them to actually do something. And I think such people in this climate sort of change times when we really need to transform things. Such people are truly needed, who really understand the key things about humans, the psychology, to really like move them, and how we can understand them is the way we can like transform change. So that's awesome to know. I had one question about what are your next plans with Cool the Globe? Are you planning to? So I heard that you're planning to get it on iOS as well. Now it's only on Play Store.
Yeah.
But so what's the progress? What's happening? What's new?
Yeah, so there's just so many plans, and I'm very excited to share that with you and to go ahead also. iOS, like you rightly said, will happen, in this month. We'll get on iOS as well. At least every day, I get 10 messages from people asking about when is going to come on iOS. So that's going to happen soon. Other than that, there are many plans essentially on two fronts. The first is the platform itself. There's always something you can do to enhance that platform. And since the time we've released the Cool the Globe, I've talked to so many different kinds of people. I speak to at least 5 users every day, and they all tell me about their experience of using the app, their context, what could be better, how they would like. How they're using it, all of those things. And it's really enhanced our understanding of what is needed more. So, a few things that we are working on the platform front. One is to just I think it's very important to make things like these easy. Social impact should be easy to the ordinary person. So how can it be more and more easy to people? Can we track their vehicle on GPS automatically? Can we allow them to scan their appliances so we can measure the efficiency? Can we integrate some user friendly just some clicks? How can we place features on the app in a way that it's very easy, all of those things. So just talking to users enhances a very big understanding on that front. How can we improve the user friendliness of the app? Other than that, one feature that I'm very excited about is the integration of communities. So,
Yeah.
can you, for example, integrate Globe Uplift community in Cool the Globe and then understand the impact made by that community as a whole? So, there'll be a Globe Uplift meter, for example,
Oh, wow.
and you'd be able to see the emissions saved by those. So, a lot of companies have committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2050, by 2030. But how can they engage their employees in that process? Can there be a meter for the employees of corporates where incentives are then arranged for people who do well? Can we integrate these in schools and classrooms, in curriculums? And how will that look on the app front? So, in embedding communities in the app is a feature that I'm particularly excited about. Then I think people feel more excited to do stuff when they can talk to other people who are also doing that. So integrating chats in the app, people can maybe inspire other people, share their stories of climate action. Because in the conversations I have with people every day, there's so many inspiring stories, Ishita. And like my story compared to that is nothing. Like I've had conversations with CEOs, founders, policymakers, all sorts of people have reached out, but the stories that touch one the most are stories by ordinary people and them talking about how they took climate action and made it a part of their lives. From small children who ask what they can do about climate change, from a person who designed a waste management system in their home when they're at school, to just today morning, in fact, I spoke to a 75-year-old retired person who said that he now wants to dedicate the second half of his life in trying to do something for the planet. And he offered to give his help to the cause. So many people like that. To a person who's part of a corporate, and one day he is working late at night and he saw plastic cups lying all around. And so the next day he did some calculations and he tried to figure out how much are we actually spending on this and how much waste is that leading to. And he came up with a cost effective solution and presented it to his boss, and they ended up saving many thousands of tons of waste just by doing that. So I've heard stories of common people deciding to take up a small action and it making a huge impact. And those stories are very inspirational. So we want to put forth those stories through the platform now. So there are many such things planned for the platform. And then outside of it, like I said, the real task is in actually reaching out to people and telling them that they can do something. So outside of the platform, campaigning, reaching out to more and more people, reaching out to schools, colleges. That's what we are doing currently as well. And we are ramping up those efforts, because the whole idea behind Cool the Globe is to bring climate action to ordinary citizens, and to embed climate actions in the day-to-day lives of all of us. So these are the two fronts on which we are currently working on.
Wow, great ideas. I think you've wonderful plans ahead, and we can
Yeah,
definitely like support your organization as well. And yeah, as you mentioned, bringing more people together, making like
yeah,
this competitive spirit, having like these friendly conversations, like what you even shared, like what they said about the app, the feedback. I think it's all just collectively helping us come together, think of better
yeah,
ideas for your app as well. And I'm
yeah,
sure we can sort of put this like question box in our story as well to check out your app, give any feedback to you, because maybe we could sort of have this like community engagement like once a
yeah.
month, like on your app,
Absolutely.
probably, so we can have a discussion about how you felt using the app. I'm sure you have all of these plans, but we would just like to be an addition to your plans and your journey, because this is something which is really unique, creative,
Yeah,
and something that each one of us can do. Like proving, making an app, you have proved that literally anyone in technical field, anyone who likes coding, can literally do anything in contribution to this huge problem that everyone
yeah,
says, like is inevitable, can't be reached, can't be achieved. That's not true.
absolutely.
You have like truly proved to all of us that small action, small
Yeah,
contribution with use of your education properly at the perfect level. I think what you have truly done is something I really want to do as well, because how sometimes what we see is we have our profession on one side, our passions on
yeah,
one side, and the
yeah,
true real world problems on one side.
yeah.
Bringing them together, like the intersection is where the true magic is, and you
Right.
are like you are the evidence of that, so amazing.
Absolutely, Ishita. And so, like, so amazingly said as well. You are, first of all, already doing so much. So, like, you are an inspiration to me and to so many others as well. But even like, other than that, like, that's what I always like to say, that people think about this kind of work, something that you have to do outside of. Like, if somebody has to make a difference, they have to completely sort of uproot their lives, change their way of living. But I think we can all make a difference in our own respective careers and in our own personal lives. And I like to say that I am doing this for so long because it's genuinely improved my life in all other fronts as well. Like, I think real sustainability and real climate action just makes your life better in all areas, from your professional life to your personal life, to the satisfaction and contentment you feel um, when you go to sleep. So it just genuinely improves our lives, and that's why people should do it.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of comments from people here. I'm sure everyone's going to start using the app, and everyone's waiting for the iOS as well. So yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be a big hit as well. So one question I had was, when you started, like back when you were planning the app, sort of in the development stage, how
Yeah.
did you think of including different things for like
Yeah.
quantification? Like how did you think
Yeah.
that we should add like use a vehicle, TV? Like how did you come up with these like parameters?
Yeah. Actually, that's a very good question, and we actually spent many, many months on just jotting down all of these things. It was easier because we had done it in our personal life first, and then the idea for an app came about. So a lot of these things were like some areas in which we had done something or the other. And in the initial months, when I was trying to reduce my emissions, I actually tried with different kinds of things. One can also like stick to one thing, but I wanted to see what are the different ways through which I can do this. So that really helped. Doing it myself first really helped. The one of the big challenges was, how do we bring it all under one umbrella? Because it's like, the impacts of climate change come in so many different forms, and that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to make it relatable to people, because it's like a devil in disguise. So there are things you can do in travel, there are different things you do in home. So essentially, we buy things, we build things, we travel to places, we grow things, and in doing all of that, we emit greenhouse gases. So how do we bring that under one umbrella? So we tried with different kinds of metrics. First, we were thinking of giving it, measuring it in terms of the liters of oil that needs to get used. Then the energy in watts, but none of it was really none of it was actually covering everything at once. And then we thought, why not just actually show people the emissions that happen because of actions, and that directly leads to climate change. So that's when we came up with wanting to measure all of that through kg equivalent of CO2 emissions. And so just deciding which unit to use was like many months of brainstorming. But I think like that makes all the difference, being able to bring all of these factors under one unit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And it's a great point about like how you had to spend so much time on it to really like think effectively what is truly causing greenhouse emissions. That too from
yeah,
like the point of view of a household,
yeah,
that has potentially like the average household is like 4 people. What would be the thing that would be most prominent? So yeah, I can imagine a lot of like planning and thought process would have gone into it, creating this wonderful app which we all have now. I'm sure like all of us I'm sure all of us are going to download it now as soon as we can. And also the fact that small actions that you
yeah,
witnessed yourself before starting this app, I think that's essential for all of us, because what your family might be feasible like able to do is not what my
yeah,
family might be able to do. And we live
right,
in different places as well, so I think we
yeah,
sort of need to think ourselves, like for ourselves,
yeah,
like what is practical for us at our homes,
right,
and then
yeah,
like sort of input in the the meters that you have. And the best part is,
absolutely,
yes, definitely the quantification of like what we are doing. That's like
right,
the unique selling point of this app, I would say, because well, you can have like people giving tips, a lot of talking that you should do this, put the tap off, this and that. But like when you have actually like things measured, that's when you
yeah,
can actually think how much impact you made. So, hey,
absolutely.
fantastic ideas. It was so nice to speak to you. Do you have any questions for us or like suggestions for the people watching? Yeah, feel free to add any.
Absolutely. I think like to end with, I would just like to say that all of this has happened because of so many people that got involved along the way, from people who helped with just suggesting actions and what we could do with the app, to many students who tested the app, who were involved in beta testing, to many experts who helped with formulating the numbers and formulating the structure, and then finally to like over 15,000 ordinary people from all of these 55 countries coming together from different corners of the world and deciding to make climate action a small part of their lives. I think through this journey, I have truly seen the power of people coming together, and and just how there is real goodness in every person. And like what I've realized is when you start doing something, there's so many people who are there to support you. And I think that's just an experience I would like to share with everyone, because I feel like we all have a great idea in us. We all have something that we want to do, but we often have hindrances. Sometimes we are shy, sometimes we are scared that it won't work, sometimes we don't know what people will say. But I have truly lived through this, that when you start building an idea of your dreams, everything else just sort of works its way out. And that's something I would like everyone to take away today. And I would love for all of you also to start working on the ideas that you're very passionate about, because it's truly an amazing experience.
Thank you so much, Prachi, for really instilling the thought of how much we should look on the brighter side and the
Yeah,
feeling of hopefulness rather than helplessness. Thank you so much for this conversation, and I will get in touch with you immediately to sort of brainstorm ideas about what we can do, because I
absolutely.
think the experience we have had through this Instagram might also help your app, and we have a community, big community as well, who can help with beta
Yes,
testing again. And
right.
yeah, just let us know of any opportunities you have. And everyone who tuned in today, please go check out Prachi's Instagram, Cool the Globe app as well. It's on Play Store currently and will be coming on iOS in a week or so. So stay
Yeah.
tuned, everyone. Thank you so much, Prachi.
Thank you so much, Ishita. I had so much fun talking to you, and I'm very excited to doing something together.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I'll keep coming here
Yeah,
to Global.
definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who joined.
Thank you.
Bye.